Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second webinar in the spring webinar series. This is going to be housing and hospitality. The previous one was a young alum panel where we were able to answer and kind of get the feel for a number of different perspectives from our alumni who are kind of in their budding careers. But yeah, before we get started, I'd like to just make a short land acknowledgement. So McMaster University sits on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee Nations and within the lands protected by the District 1 Spoon Wampum Agreement. We acknowledge that being on these lands allows us to cultivate friendships, education, and the overall university experience as well. So as far as what the agenda is going to be looking like today, part one is going to be housing, and it's going to be done by the recruitment office's own Julia Cuthbertson, a recruitment officer here in our office, and she's going to be running through all those different things in what you see on the screen right now. And then part two is going to be ran by Sydney Brennan, who is in hospitality, and she's also going to be going through all of these various things. So super excited, should be a great one. But with that said and done, I'll pass it over to Julia to kind of get us started off on housing.
Thanks, Brandon. Excited to chat all things housing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining our webinar this evening. I know that it's been a strange day weather-wise in the GTA. It was downpouring here in Toronto, where I am, about 10 minutes ago, and now it's nice and sunny. And there's also the Leafs game tonight. Hopefully the Leafs win. So lots going on. So we're really thankful that you took some time out of your really busy Tuesday evening to spend a little under an hour with us. My name is Julia. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a recruitment officer. Let's chat a little bit about housing and about your potential future home away from home. Let's get into it. Throughout the evening, if you have any questions at all, please use the Q&A function at the very bottom of the screen, along where like the option to mute and all of that is at the bottom. You can use the Q&A to send any and all questions that you may have. We have folks from our housing team, from our hospitality team, and from the recruitment team who are all here ready to answer any and all questions that you might have about anything McMaster related. We will prioritize questions related to housing and hospitality, but any other questions you have, we're down to answer them. So put those through into the Q&A throughout this evening's event. Why residence at McMaster? We have 13 residence buildings at McMaster, and I think that they're in a really cool position because they're all physically on campus. So our campus is only about 30 acres. It only takes you 10 to 15 minutes to walk from one edge of the campus to the other, and that includes the residence buildings. So they're all within that 10 to 15-minute walk, which is really neat. There's 13 residence buildings, as I said. There's two different quads. So there's the West Quad residences that are highlighted on your screen there, and then the North Quad residences. But like I said, all within that 10 to 15-minute walk away, which is really nice for establishing a great sense of community because your classes are on campus, your home is on campus, you'll be eating on campus, everything is within that 10-minute walk away. There's a fantastic support system on campus, which we'll talk about throughout this presentation, some of the folks who support our students living in residence, and we have lots of different room options available. So let's get into that. Let's talk about the residence styles. At McMaster, we have two main residence styles. We have our traditional styles and our non-traditional styles. So our traditional styles are on the bottom part of the screen there. It's sort of more so what you picture when you watch movies and TV shows about university. So we have lots of traditional double rooms, we have some single rooms, and there's different types of bathrooms you could have as part of the traditional residences. So you could have your own washroom, you could have access to a single user washroom, you could have a connected washroom where two rooms are actually connected by a washroom that locks on both sides, or you could have communal washrooms, which are sort of like, public gym washrooms that you've been in before. So lots of different options that you might have available to you within traditional. We also have our non-traditional residences, so our apartment and suite style. They're sort of what it sounds like. So there's about 2 to 6 of you, depending on the exact style. You all have your own room, but you collectively share a living room, kitchen, bathroom, as if it's your own apartment or your own suite. So that's kind of the layout of that. Now, all of our residence buildings, though, do have games rooms. There are study rooms. There's laundry in every single residence. So everything you need is definitely accessible at your fingertips. If you want to actually see what the residence buildings look like, we have a fantastic virtual tour at McMaster, which includes an entire section just on our residences. So you can see various different residence styles, see actual rooms to get a better sense of what the exact buildings might look like. Like I said, a lot of different room types, especially because a lot of our different room types have different bathrooms. So you can see, as I mentioned, with double room, there's various different bathrooms that you might have available. So depending on the type of residence building that you're in, there is a different cost associated with residence. So it could range from about $6,000 to $10,000. This is based on last year's fees, but it gives you a bit of a sense of what to expect. So this cost would be for the full 8 months that you're living in residence. There are lots of support systems built within living in residence. So there's a couple different. The first is our residence life coordinators. This is a full-time live-in employee that lives in residence. They supervise the community advisors, who we'll talk about next, and they support community development and learning opportunities for students that are living in residence. They would also be responding to any sort of crisis or emergency situations since they live right on campus. And they would also be assisting residents to resolve any potential conflicts that come up and just support with that transition in moving into residence. Now, your community advisors are upper year students. So they are McMaster students. They could be anywhere from second, third year, fourth year, and above, and they live in residence. So there's typically 1 to 2 community advisors per floor, depending on the size of the residence building. And they're really your go-to person if you were ever having any issues or you ever had any questions when you're living in residence. They also plan different events throughout the year. So when I was a student and I lived in residence, my community advisor planned movie nights and game nights that we would have in our communal rooms on our floor. So it's a great way to meet other students and get involved. So that's a person that you can definitely go to for support. Part of living in residence is not just about the room that you're living in, but it's also about kind of that experience that you're joining and the community that you're taking part in. And one optional aspect of that are different communities. So we have what's called living and learning communities at McMaster, or LLCs for short, which are essentially different communities that have kind of these niche themes about them. And these are optional parts of living in residence that you can apply for when you're applying to residence, which we'll talk about soon, don't you worry. Um, and really, it means that you're living on a floor with folks who have similar interests as you, lead similar lifestyles to you, and then different events would be planned around that LLC. So, to give you a couple examples, our esports and gaming LLCs will have video game tournaments throughout the year, and our women in leadership LLC will go to various conferences throughout the year. A few years back, they actually got to go see Michelle Obama when she was doing the press tour for one of her books. Our health and wellness LLC might go on hikes together in the morning and then have smoothies together afterwards. So it's a great way to connect with students who share similar interests as you and get involved in the community. Even if you do not live in residence, you have the option to still take part in a living and learning community, which is pretty exciting. Aside from the LLCs, which you would apply for when you're applying to residence, we also have 3 optional themed communities. We have all female, we have about a building and a half that's all female, we have our quiet community, and we also have an entirely substance-free community. So just a couple different optional parts of living in residence. Now, a big question that we get a lot is who is actually guaranteed a spot in residence? So we do not guarantee spots to every single first year student coming into McMaster. Instead, there's kind of 2 caveats to that. So the first is that all first year international and out of province students, based on their admission status, who are coming straight from high school, are guaranteed a spot in residence, full stop. Because you are coming from quite far away, we want to make sure that you have a spot in residence in your first year. Now, for current Ontario high school students, it's a little bit different. So for that, you had to have a certain academic average to be guaranteed a spot in residence. So for this fall 2025, the average that you need is an 88%. So when you get your offer letter, it will specifically tell you, hey, you have a guaranteed spot in residence. Here's how you secure that spot. Or it will tell you, unfortunately, you don't have a guaranteed spot in residence, and here are your options, which we will go through tonight. Now, if you're not guaranteed a spot in residence, there's a couple options. So you can still apply for residence and you'll be placed on the wait list. Now, the wait list is ordered based on your admission average from highest to lowest. So if you have an 87.99% average, you'll be the highest up on the wait list. And it'll move from there as long as you apply to residence by the deadline, which we'll get to. You will be able to check your exact number on the wait list on the residence application status page after the deadline. So sometime in like early to mid-June, you'll know exactly where you are on the wait list to give you a better idea of expectation-wise, how likely it is that you'll get off the wait list and kind of what your options might be so that you can start considering those. Now, if when you get your offer letter, your average was not at an 88%, maybe it was a little bit lower, but if by the time that we now are about to get your midterm second semester grades, if your grades have gone up since to have an 88% or above, we will be doing a catch-up run, so you will get that guaranteed spot in residence, not to worry. How to actually apply for residence. So you want to complete the residence application and pay the $600 deposit by the deadline of June 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. So that's the same deadline regardless if you have a guaranteed spot in residence or not. The difference is that if you don't have a guaranteed spot in residence, you'll not be asked to pay that $600 deposit. It's only if you have a guaranteed spot in residence that you would pay that deposit. Now, after that deadline, all students will be entered into a lottery and randomly assigned a specific time slot to actually go in and pick your own room. So you'll be self-selecting your room. Kind of works like concert tickets in the sense that when you log into the residence portal on your time slot, you'll see all the options that are still available, and you'll actually get to pick the specific room in the specific building that you want to live in. So you might see, Molten Hall room 203, and you'll actually get to pick that exact room. So when you get your time slot is lottery based, but you will be informed of that usually in early to mid-June, a little bit after the residence application deadline has passed. So that's kind of the information that we just went over. So after the residence application deadline, all students will be emailed and assigned their time slot to go in and actually pick that room. In terms of who you might be living with, so a lot of our rooms are that traditional double style, so you would be sharing a room with another person. But you do have the option to make one roommate request. So maybe you know someone is going to McMaster and you want to live with them, you have that option available to you. We will guarantee a roommate request if both students have a guaranteed spot in residence, meet the application deadline and deposit deadlines. You both request each other as roommates on the application, and you've both filled out your residence application identically. So if you follow those steps, you will be guaranteed to get each other as roommates. The way that it works then is that whichever one of you is given the earlier time slot to pick your room would actually just pick the room for the both of you. Few important notes. Requesting a roommate does not extend to an apartment or a suite style accommodation. If you request a roommate, it will override any options for single rooms. So you would be living in a double room. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Now, if you don't know someone who's going to McMaster, the way that you'll actually be sort of matched with roommates is that part of your residence application, you will be answering some lifestyle questions. So you'll be answering, are you a night owl or an early riser? Do you like to have friends over? Do you like to play music out loud? How tidy would you say that you are? It's important to be honest with these responses, since the way that that information is used then is when you have your time slot to go and pick your room in residence, you'll actually be able to see if there's another student that's already in that building, it'll give you sort of like a match. So it might tell you like the person that's in this room, you're a 55% match with, but the person in this room in the same building, you're an 85% match with, based on those lifestyle questions, so that you can sort of make an informed decision about who the person is that you're going to be living with. Now, if you don't have a guaranteed spot in residence, or maybe you're just not looking at living in residence, there's a couple options available to you. So living off campus is definitely popular, and especially since students only really live in residence in their first year, it's quite common to live in off-campus housing after your first year. A lot of the neighborhoods that surround the university are off-campus student housing, so you can find something within a 5 to maybe a 20-minute walk away from the university. We do have a McMaster off-campus housing website where Hamilton landlords will specifically put their listings when they're looking for McMaster students to rent from them. So when I was a student in my second year, that's actually how I found the place that I lived at. And that was about a 15-minute walk away from the university. And then when I was in my final year, I lived in my own apartment, and that was about a 10-minute walk away from the university. Now, the apartment that I lived in was definitely more expensive than the house that I lived in with other students, but you definitely have options available to you. Another option is in downtown Hamilton, we do have a new residence building that's opened up in the last year or two. It's at 10 Bay, so we call it 10 Bay in downtown Hamilton, and that is available for graduate students, but also some undergraduate students as well. Now, if you're living off campus, we make it really easy because of the transportation options available on campus. So, all full-time or most full-time undergraduate students will be given a bus pass that will allow you to ride the Hamilton City buses, so the HSR, completely for free. And that is for all of the years of your undergraduate program when you're full-time, and for all 12 months. So even in the summer, you can use that, which is really nice to go and, explore Hamilton, or if you're living off campus, to get to and from where you're going to. And there are about 3 to 4 bus stops going both ways on campus. Aside from that, we have our very own Go Bus station right on campus that has a lot of buses that go to cities within the Greater Toronto and Greater Toronto Hamilton area. And then we're about a 10-minute drive away or 10-minute bus ride away from the closest GO train station, which is Aldershot train station. So a couple options if you're looking at living off campus, or even if you're just curious about how the heck you're going to get home when you're living in residence. And then we do also, as part of our GO station, there is a bus that goes directly to Toronto's airport as well. So if you're an international student, that might be of interest to you. That was a lot of information kind of thrown right at you about how the residence application works. If you have any questions about the residence application, definitely continue sending them in the Q&A. We will continue answering them throughout the call. But you can also email resadmissions@mcmaster.ca if you have some more kind of like niche questions. And then we'll be able to help you from there. Or if you're a part of our Discord server, we can answer housing questions there. Lots of different ways that you can reach out to us, and we will talk even more about our contact methods at the very end of the call. But before we get to that, we are going to transition over to talking about hospitality and meal plans and what the heck you're going to eat when you're actually on campus. So I'm going to pass things over to Sydney, and they're going to tell you all about hospitality at McMaster. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Julia. If you want to go to the next slide there. Perfect. So that's me. My name is Sydney, and I work as the registered dietitian with hospitality services here at McMaster. And I'm here to give you an overview of our department and what you can expect when you come to MAC and dine on campus, which I'm excited to share because we have lots of really delicious food options here at McMaster. So first, we have some department basics just to get us started. So we are a self-operated food service, which means that we are run by McMaster for McMaster. So we don't have a third-party service running us, such as an Aramark or a Compass. We are independently run, which a lot of people don't know. We also do about 4 million transactions every year, which means that we have quite a busy campus, and that includes more than 625 employees, and about 100 of those are actually students every year. So if you're someone who's interested in food service and you're looking for a part-time job throughout the school year, consider applying to work with us. We host job fairs a couple of times throughout the semester, and you can typically see advertisements for those on all of the different McMaster social medias. We also have 19 locations across campus and over 15 off-campus partnerships that you can use your meal plan at, which we will talk more about in a few minutes. So our focus in hospitality is to support McMaster's various strategies. So we support something called the Okanagan Charter and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, which are all about advancing human and societal well-being as well as sustainability. And we are also centered around enhancing the student experience. So we are very focused on student value, and we do this by benchmarking our meal plans against other universities and colleges across Canada. And we like to stay in the middle of the pack. You'll see a variety of options across campus that will appeal to a diverse range of needs, including dietary needs and also economic needs as well. We do have an initiative across campus called our $6 signature meals, which, as the name suggests, are only $6 for a meal. And this year it included options like our chana masala and brown rice, or our 3-egg omelet with toast, just to name a couple. Inclusivity is also at the heart of everything we do at Hospitality Services. So we offer vegan, vegetarian, and halal options all across campus. This year, we had well over 100 vegan and vegetarian options across campus, and that doesn't even include the variety of options that students could create at stations like our self-serve salad bar on campus or our franchises as well. So if you are someone who eats vegan, vegetarian, or halal, you don't have to specify or ask for these dietary restrictions on your residence application, because we do offer it everywhere across campus. You can simply use our little green menu symbols that you'll see on our menu boards when you are on campus to help guide your choices. So if you're someone who has a more complex or severe dietary restriction, I'm going to talk more about what our options and procedures are for that shortly. And then, as I mentioned earlier, accessibility and inclusivity is at the heart of everything we do. So of course, all of our menu boards are also AODA compliant and available on our website as well. So the theme at McMaster is contributing to a brighter world, and our hospitality department is always working diligently to achieve this through many different facets. But I wanted to specifically highlight how we focus on sustainability in our department. So here at McMaster, we believe in ethically sourced coffee and tea. So you will see fair trade, locally roasted, or Rainforest Alliance coffee and tea all across campus. We also have a program in place currently called Bring Your Own Mug, where students are able to purchase their hot beverages all across campus in their own reusable mug or thermos, as a way to both receive a discount on their purchase as well as be part of the sustainability movement at McMaster. So keep your eye out for that program once you're here on campus. And as much as we can during the academic year, we also try to purchase locally sourced products as well. So we're excited that we're currently purchasing about 39% of our produce locally, and the majority of our seafood on campus is also sustainably sourced. And one other initiative that we're extremely proud of is our reusable container program. So this is a program where students are able to download a QR code called a reuse pass and check out reusable containers, just like you would check out a library book, as an alternative to disposable takeout containers. So by doing this, or by dining in using a regular plate, you can save $1.25 on disposable takeout containers. And you're also able to take that green container back to your residence room, or maybe to a location where you're studying on campus. And then you just return it once you're done in one of our drop-off locations. So it's quite convenient. And not only does participating in the program help with overall sustainability, it's also a really great way to save some money if you like to get your food to go. So many students take advantage of that program, and I'd encourage you to check it out as well once you're here on campus. Earlier, we have about 19 locations on campus where students can dine, and also many off-campus partners. So Centro and Bistro are the two main hubs for residence dining. Each are centered around the main quads of residence buildings on campus, as Julia mentioned earlier. And just like Julia mentioned, if your residence building is close to Centro, for example, and you feel like going to Bistro one day, they are very walkable to each other. So that close proximity opens up quite a bit of variety when it comes to dining on campus. We also have two other dining units called La Piazza, which is in the Student Center, and IAHS, as well as several smaller cafes all across campus that serve grab-and-go items, baked goods, and hot and cold beverages. And those are really great little study spots. And our staff really love seeing their regulars who utilize these spaces. So definitely be sure to check out some of those hidden gems, such as Math Cafe, where we have White Buffalo Coffee, which is an Indigenous owned coffee company when you get to campus. And we also have many retail locations from some of your favorite franchises that I'm sure you're familiar with, like Starbucks, Second Cup, Pizza, Chopped Leaf, Booster Juice, and many more. And you can use your basic meal plan dollars at these franchise locations on campus. So meal plans are mandatory for everyone who lives in residence. There are two different styles of meal plan, which you will see on the next slide. There is a reduced tier option for students living in Mary Kai's or Bates, since those are suite styles, and you may choose to cook for yourself more often as they do have access to a larger kitchen. Then we also have our traditional style of meal plans that would be for all students living in all other residence buildings on campus. So the way your meal plan works is called a declining balance. And what that means is that it works like a preloaded debit card, essentially. So you swipe your student card every time that you want to make a purchase, and then that purchase is subtracted from your meal plan and it decreases accordingly. And that's really nice for folks because if you only want a coffee and a muffin, for example, you're just paying for the coffee and the muffin. Or if you want a steak or a salmon dinner, because we do have those on campus and they're really good, that's all you're paying for. So it's really nice and flexible for your eating patterns. So when you look at the meal plans, you will see the terms basic and retail. The difference between these two is that basic is for your non-taxable items, which is going to be the bulk of your purchases on campus. So the majority of the food that you're going to be eating. And then retail dollars are the things that the CRA considers taxable, like your off-campus partners or non-food items that you might choose to purchase with your meal plan. You are able to add funds to your retail account if you would like to use your meal plan for those things. So at the off-campus partners, for example, and then funds in your basic account will carry over after your first year minus the overhead costs, whereas any retail funds that you choose to add are refundable. You will also see the term flex dollars, which is used if you choose to top up your meal plan throughout the year. You can add money to your basic meal plan dollars through these flex dollars at any point. So you never have to worry about running out of meal plan dollars if you have a big appetite. And for any students who might choose to live off campus, so not in residence, we do also have an off-campus meal plan that is optional. Some students choose the off-campus meal plan so that it's really convenient to eat on campus when they have longer class days, and they're still able to take advantage of those non-taxable benefits of having a meal plan. But we do also accept debit and credit cards all across all of our campus locations as well. So here you can see the 4 levels in each meal plan tier that I mentioned previously. So again, the apartment plans are only an option for students living in the suite or apartment style residences, so Mary Kai's or Bates, and traditional meal plans are for all residence buildings. We offer the different levels, so A, B, C, D, so that you can choose the plan that fits your needs best based on your lifestyle, your economic factors, etc. So when you're thinking about, which meal plan do I want to choose, I'd recommend thinking about factors like how often do you plan on dining on campus? Are you someone who's going to go home often on the weekends? Do you have a really large appetite? Do you tend to eat less? Those are really helpful questions to ask yourself when you're trying to decide between the 4 levels. And don't forget that you do have the option to always top up through flex dollars if you are running out. We do have a more detailed breakdown of our meal plan policy that you can access on our website, which you can see the URL is at the bottom of the slide there. And like I mentioned earlier, inclusivity, it's at the heart of everything we do at Hospitality Services at MAC. So we're very proud that we have our 2 simple locations on campus. Our simple locations are free of the top allergens, which includes shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, egg, milk, wheat, gluten, soy, sesame, and mustard. And while all of our staff across campus receive yearly allergy awareness training, staff that prepare and serve food at Simple have received additional training specifically on how to prevent cross-contamination for allergies. So only Simple trained staff are allowed to enter those stations and prepare Simple food. And those Simple locations have extra allergy protocols in place to help prevent any sort of cross-contamination happening. They also have separate receiving, storage, and prep areas, only accessible by those trained staff, and they use completely separate products like spices and herbs, completely separate specific utensils and equipment as well. We have 2 Simple locations, one in Centro and one in Bistro, so one in each of our main dining hubs. The Simple location in Centro has a 28-day rotating menu, which offers 2 different animal protein options, a fish option, a vegan protein option, a veggie side, and a starch every day. And the Simple location in Bistro has a static menu with rotating feature dishes. And I want to stress that although Simple was created to better meet the needs of our students with severe food allergies and our celiac students as well, anyone is able to purchase food at Simple, and many students and staff, myself included, do. It's very delicious. This year, our stuffed portobello mushrooms, I think our scalloped potatoes, chicken biryani, and our Cajun salmon fillets and shepherd's pie, those were really big hits this year. And all of our Simple meals are created with Canada's food guide in mind. So they're really balanced, they're colorful, and they're really delicious. Now, if you are someone who does have a severe dietary restriction, and when I say restriction, we would consider something like a severe food allergy, for example, to be a dietary restriction. So essentially a condition or a restriction that a medical professional could attest to or confirm a diagnosis of. So if you have a dietary restriction that's severe and you're still feeling unsure after today's webinar of what you might be able to eat on campus, please reach out to me, the registered dietitian, before you apply to residence and purchase a meal plan, so we can talk about the best way that we can support you and what that might look like. That way we can make sure that you feel comfortable moving forward with the options available to you. And I believe at the end, there will be a slide with contact info, so you can email the email address there if you have more questions. And last but not least, here is a list of a few more of our off-campus partners, which again, like I said, you can add retail dollars to spend at those off-campus partners if you would like. And if you want to see a full list, you can find that on our hospitality website as well. And I think that that is all from me.
Thanks, Sydney. That was so helpful to hear a little bit more about, what students can expect to be eating. As a student who lived in residence in first year and ate all my meals on campus, can definitely vouch for the food being yummy. And because there's so much variety, you're not going to get like sick and tired of eating the same one meal over and over again or anything like that, which is definitely appreciated. Okay, folks, definitely lots of questions that are still coming in. So I'm gonna just answer a couple that are coming up a lot, just to kind of help you out. So a lot of folks are asking if about kind of guaranteed residence. Once you have a guaranteed spot in residence, you do not lose it. So you will retain your spot in residence as long as you otherwise clear the conditions of your offer. So that's kind of how that works. And the last opportunity for us to give you a guaranteed spot in residence will be based on your midterm second semester grades, which we are receiving this week into next week. If you don't have a guaranteed spot in residence, you can apply and still be put on the wait list, which is ordered based on your academic average. And then you will be told the exact number on the wait list that you are, so you have an idea of kind of what to expect. as part of that. And I also wanted to highlight that as part of every single residence building, there are communal kitchens. So even if you don't live in a residence building that has its own kitchen in your own room, so the apartment and the suite styles, you'll still have access to a full kitchen. So I lived in a traditional style residence, but I had a communal kitchen on my floor that had oven and stove and microwave and all that sort of stuff. So I was able to sometimes, just like heat up leftovers or make a cup of soup in the microwave, make some mac and cheese. So you will still have access to that. But you would want to be bringing your own like cutlery and that sort of stuff as well. Also, as part of living in residence, you do have the option to rent a mini fridge through the university. So it's through an external company called Coldex. You can't bring your own due to some fire hazards, but you can rent one for the year. If you have a roommate, you would split the cost, and you can apply for that in the summer. So you'll have that option. But for like bringing your own microwaves or bringing your own kettle, that sort of stuff, you can't have those plugged in a traditional style residence room, but you would be able to bring those and use those in like the communal kitchens, for example, if that was something that you were looking for. But otherwise, we don't allow kind of big electrical things that could present to be fire hazards otherwise. So those are a couple of kind of the FAQs that are starting to come up, and not to worry if you weren't able to join right when the presentation started or anything like that, because we have been recording this entire presentation and it will be posted on our website, the same website where you would have signed up for this webinar. So you should be familiar with it by the end of this week, if not by the end of the day tomorrow. So it'll be available nice and quickly for you. So you'll have that as well as some FAQs. If you are looking for our website, the website is future.mcmaster.ca. And then we also have some emails on the screen that you can see. So if you have questions specifically about housing, there's the housing email, the hospitality email, and then anything else can go to our general recruitment inbox. So feel free to email us there, and we will continue answering things in the chat as they come up, even after we've finished kind of our presentation portion, which we're nearly there, just kind of get those final questions answered. But while we do that, we might turn our cameras off so we can focus on answering your questions. But I will pass it back over to Brandon to tell you a little bit more about what else we have going on at McMaster and what other ways you can stay connected to McMaster and different kind of upcoming events that we have going on, because we always have lots of different events that are happening at McMaster. So Brandon will tell you a little bit more about those.
Alrighty, for sure. So I hope everything's been super informative so far, folks. As you can see on the screen, there's a number of different ways in which you could potentially stay connected to us. We have tours that are usually running anywhere from Monday through to Friday. They will be starting back up in May as of, going into next week, they'll be starting back up. Anywhere from Monday through Friday, 10:30 to 1:30, they'll be conducted by a number of our different tours teams. We also have a virtual tour in which you can potentially go online and kind of just check out the campus through kind of like a super cool virtual kind of approach, super innovative, and it's a nice way to kind of look at it. Next, we have the live chat support, where you can head online, and if you have any questions, you could potentially reach out. You might be able to speak to myself or Julia or a number of the other amazing people that we have on our team to answer a ton of the different questions in which you might have. Our newsletter series, if you want to scan the QR code that's here on the screen right now, you'll be able to kind of get a ton of different newsletters that kind of keep you up to date with a number of different things that's pertaining to anything that has to do with admissions and McMaster as a whole. And then staying connected, you can head to future.mcmaster.ca to follow up on any of our socials where we post content and just a bunch of fun and informative stuff. Now, I want to save the best for last in this sense with our upcoming events that we might have. Oh, if you just want to jump back, Julia, my bad. With the upcoming events which you might have, our May at Mac Spring Open House is a super informative event that's going to be taking place. You can come, bring your family, friends. It's happening on May 10th. great event for you to just come in, speak to faculty, ask any questions in which you might have that pertain to what the program is going to look like during your time within it. You can speak to some students that are also going to be there that are currently in the program as a whole. And you can also listen to a bunch of like different information centers as well, all while being able to kind of just be on our campus and see a number of the different areas in the buildings, as well as some tours as well. Super nice to just be on campus and just kind of take all of it in. I know that a lot of students that had come to the university and finally decided to commit was after a lot of the open houses, just because you really get that opportunity to come in and check it out. And for any students that potentially are offer holders that or looking into potentially going into a number of our different programs, then you can definitely get an opportunity to look into it there. Yeah, next page. So we do have another webinar series, next one coming up, which is the next steps now to September. It's going to be taking place Tuesday, May 29th. You can RSVP for it the same way that you pretty much kind of did with this one. But this one is this installment of the webinar series is more so going to be looking at to the next steps that are going to be taking place and kind of what it's going to be looking like as you somewhat progress into your program. We're going to be tackling topics such as accepting your offer potentially, and what move-in things might look like, and a number of different areas in that sense, just to kind of really give you that final send-off as you potentially look to come to or potentially commit to McMaster going into September. So super excited to kind of fulfill that and see a number of all of you once again, and just kind of give you a little bit more information going into September. Now, as Julia kind of alluded to, we're going to be just answering a bunch of the different questions that still might be in the chat. So if you wanted to send some more in, completely fine. I'm going to be turning my camera off as I jump into the Q&A as well. But thank you all for coming and spending some time to learn a little bit more about McMaster in some type of facet. Once again, I hope you were able to take something away from this, as we always love giving information. And it's just something that we really always enjoy. So thank you all for some of your time, and I hope you have an amazing evening as well.